Okay, this is the last video that I did where we talked about the different ingredients of a compost pile or an aerobic composting effort. And now we're going to start another one, and we're going to develop the idea of, let's call it sustainable gardening, sustainable permaculture versus master gardening. That'll cause a little trouble. Let's go with it. Why not? So let's start with this little piece of property here. I think we can't go any lower than this right here. Okay. Let's start with this property right here. And let's deal with something like an acre, 2 acres at the most. And it's a term that I used on the first video, not the ingredients of the compost video, but the first video in this series, where I talked about inside-out properties or outside-in properties. And this is an outside-in property, meaning we're going to be bringing inputs in. And one of the inputs is going to be from machines. Okay. It takes resources to buy a machine, to maintain a machine. It takes fuel, run the machine. So these are inputs into the property. And then we'll go with, let's go upwards, and let's say these are GMO seeds. These are seeds that don't reproduce the same way the next year. So if you grow a crop from GMO seeds, highly likely those seeds won't grow the same crop the next year. It'll be something different, probably not even close to being as productive. And then we're bringing in fertilizers. Fertilizers. Come on, wake up. And primarily that's, the big one everybody talks about is NPK. Alright, these are chemical based, and you have to buy those and bring those in if you're not going to do this in a sustainable manner. You're doing this as, and I know the master gardeners around here, I know a couple of them, this is how they do things. So, maybe not, I'm sure not all master gardeners will agree with this, but I know some that do that. Maybe it's not fair for me to use master gardeners, so maybe we can use somebody else, like just agriculture. We can say this is an agricultural system. Okay, and let's do one more since we got 4 sides to the property. Let's do chemicals. Got to kill the pests and the diseases. And these are the inputs that you have in this unsustainable property. What happens is all this pressure on the soil, and the soil becomes depleted. And the main element that gets depleted here that reflects into the production is carbon. As the carbon becomes depleted, you're going to have less production. Most agriculturalists, how they respond to this is they bring in more fertilizers, they bring in more chemicals, and as the soil depletes, the crops that you're growing become weaker. They don't have all the nutrients they need to be strong, and they attract more pests and diseases. So now you're upping the chemicals, and you have more machines running on the property, compacting the soil. And GMO seeds, they designed these for depleted soil. And I'm not quite so sure these products are nutritious. Then on top of all of this, we have all of these are controlled by corporations, and shareholders always want more. So now all of these are all under the pressure of increasing prices. Until whoever is working the soil in this manner finally just collapses. Yeah, that's how it works. That's how it works. I don't want to redo this, so I'm just going to zoom this out a little bit more. There you go. You can see it all together. Always, shareholders, corporation shareholders always want more. And the employees of the corporations always want more too. So let's include that. And that's reflected in the increasing prices of all these inputs. Okay, well, I don't know if I got enough space on this side to do one. Well, let's try it. We'll reduce things. Oh, I don't want to reduce things. Actually, we want to stay inside the box anyway, so let's do that. We'll just make a bigger box. This is the same size property as this because we're comparing one to the other. And the most important ingredients into this sustainable system, the end result of it has to be you are producing compost. Let's use this one here. Compost. Now we want to produce the ingredients for the compost. And that's going to require farm animals, chickens, rabbits, if it's a small property, quail. Two very good, what you could consider farm animals is, one of them is homing pigeons, and you're not going to feed them much. They're going to go out and scavenge on their own outside of the property, and they're going to be bringing in inputs for you. You're not doing it. The pigeons are going to be doing it naturally. And you're going to want to have, part of this is wildlife. I guess I'm getting off the subject here of the compost, so we'll skip that for now. I'll come back to wildlife. Then you're going to want to be growing crops that you're not going to harvest necessarily for the soil, but for the compost. So you're going to be growing perennial greens for the compost. So now you have the ingredients here between these two to make the compost. Because like the last video I described to you, you need greens, you need manure, and then you need browns, which eventually come from the greens. So now you got the ingredients for your compost. And you want to produce this on your land. That's how you make this sustainable. Okay, and along with the perennial greens, now you're looking at other perennial crops like bushes and things that'll make you berries and nuts. And those will feed the farm animals, along with the seeds that you're going to be putting into it. And that's another cornerstone of this is heirloom seeds. So that you don't have to buy seeds, and you want to be actually planting some of your land just to grow enough for your farm animals. So this is how you produce a sustainable property. And we want to talk about wildlife too. Wildlife can also bring in manure from outside in. You know, they're feeding outside and they're coming in and leaving manure. When these little birds I have in my backyard, like the house wrens and house sparrows, when they are feeding babies, it is an amazing run of insects and caterpillars coming into those babies that they're feeding. So they can also be pest control. Because you're using heirloom seeds, over the years you are actually producing your own seeds that resist diseases. Let's see, what else can we talk about? Okay, compo. And the other thing that I talked about in previous videos, you also want to be harvesting rainwater. Water. And this is pretty much going to set you up so that you're on a inside-out property. And if you incorporate yourself into this property where you're eating everything off of it, and you gain yourself a spouse, your little children, and you're all feeding off of this sustainable property, even though you are living on this property, you will still, in a lot of cases, if you design it just right, if you got just the right design and just the right amount of property, and I don't know if it's going to be an acre, it's going to be 5 acres, it's going to be half an acre, where you are, depends on your soil type and your climate and microclimates. There's a lot of variables that go into this, but you want to get to a size so that you're actually producing an output that is a surplus, that you can sell this off-site without damaging the system. So that's what I'm talking about. This is sustainable. Sustainable means it can produce itself, maintain itself, and replace itself without any inputs. Or another way to describe sustainable is it produces more energy than it requires. Okay. This one over here doesn't do it. This one doesn't. This one here is a loser. Don't do that. I want you to do this right here. Okay. Until the next time, thanks for watching.